Hi guys, good evening, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host, Eddie, and in tonight's video, I'll be doing my episode review for the latest episode of our favorite spin-off show, AMC's Fear the Walking Dead. Just got done watching the brand new episode that just finished airing a few minutes ago. A lot went down, a lot of exciting and intriguing stuff happened, and there's a lot to talk about. So, to start things off with, as usual, with all of my video reviews, please be warned that this is a spoiler-filled review. Again, I will be discussing spoilers, characters, plot details, and story points throughout this whole video. So if you're not caught up on Fear the Walking Dead by this most recent episode or the past couple episodes of Season 5, don't keep watching or listening, as it will be ruined for you if you have not seen it. So you have been warned. That's your spoiler warning. So spoilers starting right about now. Well, as usual with this show and the original The Walking Dead they do a good job of answering questions on our mind, and then they also happen to raise a few new ones. For instance, we finally understand why these kids have been putting up these nasty-ass roadblocks all around this area, this perimeter. And it's because the walkers trapped at that summer camp in those cabins are their parents. And they just can't bring themselves to leave them. That's why they won't accept help from outsiders, and that's why they refuse to leave. And it's not just these three kids, Annie, Max, and Dylan. It's a huge group of kids. We've got like a Peter Pan type situation, the Lost Boys type of deal, where it's all of these orphan children who have been doing pretty well for themselves, despite not having parents or adults around. So, I got to give them props. They seem to be quite capable of taking care of themselves despite the ages they're at, so good on them. So that's one question answered. Still don't know where Al is. Looks like we might get some answers, though, because the same kind of helicopter, I don't know if it was the helicopter that took Rick back in Season 9 of Walking Dead, but it is the same kind of helicopter due to the three-ring symbol. By the way, thank you to the YouTuber who noted in my season premiere review video where I was talking about the symbols. I completely misunderstood that. I thought those were symbols Sherry was leaving behind for Dwight. It turns out I was wrong, and I didn't notice it at first, so thank you for that. The three-ring symbol, of course, is the trademark of what we refer to as the helicopter people, the people who took Rick and Jadis away back in Walking Dead Season 9. So hopefully we'll get some more answers for next week's episode when it looks like it's just going to be about Al and what she's been up to. But let's get back to this episode. I loved that Daniel and Victor have somewhat come at an impasse where, Daniel wasn't completely unreasonable and he was going to let Victor and his people use the plane, but he was just kind of drag it out to a certain point. But fortunately, ended up working out. I love the fact that I thought to myself, is Victor climbing into the plane to turn on the blades to kill all the zombies? And I was like, yes. When I realized that's exactly what he was doing, I was very excited about that. But unfortunately, they shorted out the engines, and now the plane is unusable. But out of the mouth of babes, as they say, it sounds like Dylan has the cool idea of, well, why don't you just rebuild the plane you crashed in? Don't know how feasible or realistic that is. I don't know if any of them are, like mechanics or plane engineers or whatnot, but anything is worth a shot. So our groups are still separated from each other, but at least, Charlie, Victor, and Wendell and Sarah are all safe and sound in Daniel's warehouse, who is now apparently going off to do something that he had been putting off for a while, and he doesn't seem to mind the fact that they're going to be staying there until they help their friends. So I'm very curious about that. Also, is Skidmark going to go with him? And I love Skidmark too. I love how Skidmark was just being a cat and he was just clawing at the window, but unfortunately it's what lured all the walkers towards him, but at least he got out of there okay. Although it did crack me up when Daniel said, one of these days I'm going to leave you behind. There was some great heart-to-heart character moments throughout this episode. I loved the relationship that was developed and grew between Charlie and Daniel. I loved the sort of reconciliation between Victor and Daniel, and I loved how Daniel forced Victor to confront past sins or past mistakes and reveal them to his new allies. I think it was a form of closure for both of them, really. But I also loved how Victor really went out of his way to try to prove Daniel that he is indeed a changed man. And it seems like for the most part, he has proven that. Not just to Daniel, but to his allies and to the audience as well, which is really, really reassuring. And I just hope that the relationship continues to mend and grow between Daniel and Strand once again, because going back at those earlier seasons, as forgettable as they were, I really enjoyed the banter and chemistry. Even though they were mostly insulting and criticizing each other, I loved the banter that was between Daniel and Strand. So hopefully we get to see that again now that their relationship is semi-mended. So yeah, overall, really good episode. Really enjoyed it. And like I said, it answered a few questions and then it raised a few questions. So hopefully we'll get some of these new questions answered in next week's episode, which looks very promising as well. This season has just been knocking it out of the park, especially from last week when we finally got reintroduced to Dwight. I love the fact that they touched on the fact that June and John are out there helping him search for Sherry as well. Hopefully we'll get an episode where it's just about those three in their continuing search for Sherry while everybody else looks for Al and tries to get reunited. And then everybody throughout this episode still had the goodwill mission in mind. Like everybody, like our main core of characters was trying to help everybody. They tried to help Dylan. They helped Daniel when he was leading the walkers away. And so it's nice that everybody's kept that mentality of, hey, we're out here trying to help people and that's what we're going to do. It's nice to see that their spirit hasn't been diminished yet. This is Fear the Walking Dead, and things do tend to go rather badly fairly quickly on this show. But I'm also very excited to see what direction they go now that they've introduced the helicopter people to this show. I feel like they're just going to be teasing about what the first Walking Dead movie is going to be about. The first of three films that Rick Grimes is going to be leading, so I'm very curious about that. If it's not going to introduce this movie flat out, it's probably going to tease what's to come, so we're going to keep watching for that. Thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you had a great time watching this episode, as I did. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more reviews on this show and many shows like it. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Thanks again for watching, and of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.